principal of the Schools of Logic and Rhetoric. And thank you all for coming out this evening. Thank you for taking the time to meet your children's teachers and get a little glimpse of what they'll be doing this coming school year. Tonight's event is called Parent Academy because for the next 80 or 90 minutes, I invite you to step into your children's shoes. Soon you will have that opportunity to meet your children's teachers, learn about their classes, and get a glimpse of the Annapolis curriculum. But before we begin going through the evening schedule that I've just explained and that you have in front of you, I'd like to begin with a brief class, if you will, since this is Parent Academy, on the educational value of classical Christian education. And I don't want to talk about the mechanics of the trivium or the educational theory we stand on, although that's certainly a conversation I would be more than willing to have with any one of you. But instead, I want to spend the next few minutes contextualizing our classical Christian curriculum, the Annapolis curriculum, in light of the world and culture that we live in. You see, you have invested for your children to attend here at Annapolis, but your children are also already enrolled in another school, in an alternative educational environment that is engaging our students' hearts and minds in profound and, unfortunately, often disturbing ways. And by doing so, this alternate educational environment that I'm describing presents very stiff competition to the cherished content and noble purposes of classical Christian education. What is this other school that your children are all enrolled in? Well, let's call it the Academy of Contemporary Culture. Or, better yet, we can call it the education of Hannah Montana, or the education of Lady Gaga. Contemporary culture. It is a colossal classroom. And our students are being taught, and they are being indoctrinated with what our culture wants them to know, what our culture wants them to be, how to act, and how to behave. And the Academy of Contemporary Culture is extraordinarily powerful, pervasive, and I dare to say corrupt. It is administered and communicated effectively by virtually omnipresent and omnipotent media outlets, especially the film industry, the television industry, the music industry, video gaming, magazines, the internet, cell phones, and the list goes on. I'm going to share with you a quote that many of you may have seen before, and I think it's worth spending time to read once again. And I think I'm going to skip forward here. Caitlin Flanagan wrote several years ago in the Atlantic Monthly, "The 'it takes a village' philosophy is a joke, because the village is now so polluted and so desolate of commonly held, child-appropriate moral values that my job as a mother is not to rely on the village, but to protect my children from it." This is the world that we live in. You have chosen to enroll your students here at Annapolis Christian Academy in large part to combat this other school, declaring war, if you will, on this other school, the Academy of Contemporary Culture. So this evening I'd like to spend a few minutes walking through a few pieces of the Contemporary Culture Academy, recognizing just how insidious and just how spread it is in our mindsets and in our consciousness. Here are the faculty of the ACC. And this is a mere sampling. This is only the surface. A faculty of celebrities with celebrity cool, celebrity notoriety, and celebrity influence. Leading media figures and celebrities have incredible sway with our students as role models and have incalculable influence in forming the dreams shaping the attitudes and motivating pursuits and behaviors of our students. The curriculum of the ACC comes in many forms. We have classic outlets such as People Magazine, US Weekly, Teen Magazine, books that have taken over our culture such as the Harry Potter series, the Twilight series, Captain Underpants, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the list goes on and on and on. And while many of these are enjoyable, entertaining, fluffy pieces of literature in their own right, they've also become so pervasive and they've become such a focal point to our students' lives that I think something has been lost. TV is another prime asset to the Academy of Contemporary Culture. The Trojan horse of Western civilization, if you will. We spend a great deal of money to bring TV into our houses. We spend a great deal of money to then get advertising telling us what to think, what to eat, how to dress, what to wear. In TV, although one of the most commonly pointed to pieces of the contemporary culture that we live in, today only scratches the surface. Music. I think, personally, music is one of the most powerful mediums that we expose ourselves to on a regular basis, on a daily basis. How many of us get in the car and immediately turn the radio on? According to a 2008 study, the average teen listens to 2.5 hours of music on a day. Another study shows that 1 in 3 of the songs on the top pop song charts contains explicit references to drug and alcohol use. That means kids are receiving about 35 references to substance abuse for every hour of music they listen to. Film. Movies are the real creatures of today, with new sermons for the eyes. Hollywood is the myth-making capital of America, and Hollywood's narrative and commercial influence is felt around the world. Internet. 73% of teens ages 12 to 17 are on a social networking site, Facebook being the most popular. In the age bracket of 18 to 34-year-olds, 48% check Facebook as soon as they wake up, with 28% doing so before they even get out of bed. I ask you to consider if that is the case in your household with your teenagers, and I can see some of you smiling, because some of you know, and probably some of you are guilty of it yourselves, as am occasionally me. You wake up and the alarm clock goes off, and the first thing you do, I'll just grab the phone, just see what's going on. And then Facebook becomes the very last thing we see at night and the very first thing we see in the morning. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that noteworthy? That is what we surround ourselves with. And the result of all of this is that our students cannot get away from social media. They cannot get away from the internet. There is a constant urge to see what's being said about them, to see who's saying what about whom. And it's incredibly difficult to resist the temptation to check. Has anyone posted anything new? Are there any new pictures up? Are there new things to comment on? What's going on? It used to be the case that all that stayed at school. It used to be the case, and probably you can probably remember these days from your own life. You had occasionally a really bad day at school, and so you went home and you got to put it all behind you. Our students can't do that anymore. When they go home, whatever happened during the school day, whatever drama occurred, it follows them. It follows them right up until the time they go to bed. Cell phones are another prime tool that the Academy of Contemporary Culture uses. And cell phones, I have a cell phone. I would guess there are as many cell phones, if not more, as people in this room. And yet, they have become so ubiquitous within our lives that I do wonder what influence it's having on our students. 4 out of 5 teens carry a wireless device, mostly cell phones, some of them other kinds of wireless devices. Around 60% of all teens consider their cell phones to be the key to their social lives. And only clothing outranks cell phones as an indicator of social status and popularity. And that means that cell phones outrank jewelry, shoes, and other accessories. That's how powerful cell phone technology has become in our students' lives. And by the way, those are numbers from a 2008 national survey of 13 to 19-year-olds. Commercial advertising is one of the keys to how all of this is promulgated in our students' lives. The entire enterprise of contemporary popular culture is led and fed and supported by a multi-billion-dollar commercial advertising mammoth. $17 billion are spent each year on influencing children. But unfortunately, advertising not only sells products, it also forms identities. Advertising is incredibly pervasive, and at the same time, it's often misleading or false. I'd like to show you a 1-minute video clip that was published a few years ago by the Dove Foundation, showing just how misleading advertising can be. Can we get the lights? Sorry. Getting there. Is that Mac working for you?
It's not the mask.
It's not. Thank you. Is that a new video clip? If you've seen it before, I hope it struck you just as powerfully as it did the first time that you saw it. That was published a few years ago. Every time I watch that video clip, I'm just torn a little bit inside, especially at the end when it shows it on the billboard and then you see the teenagers walking right in front of it. That is what our students are living in. That is the culture that they are being presented and barraged with from all sides. So I listed a whole bunch of what seemed like sort of common aspects of today's society. Commercial advertising, cell phones, internet, music, TV, film, and what deepens the impact of the teaching of this curriculum, if you will, that's given by the contemporary culture in which we live, is that teenagers are ultimately evaluated not by some authority figure, but rather by themselves. They're evaluated based on how well they master this material and how well this material masters them, the degree to which they buy in to all the messages that the world is giving them. As I wrap up in the next few minutes, I'd like to present to you that the reason why this classical Christian education is so pivotal is because we have an opportunity to transform and renew our students' minds. We have an opportunity to take the front lines and to reclaim the territory that so much of our culture has lost.